rolling tumors to roaring lampooners, the Tigers on a Roll show starts in 3, 2, 1.
War Eagle Auburn family, man, I wish that I was coming to you under some better circumstances. I wish that we were talking about an upset victory, going to a bowl game, or even, rushing the field against Bama after winning the Iron Bowl for the first time in a long time. But, instead we're talking about a 27-20 loss in a game that Auburn seemed like they could have taken over at any point. But instead, Auburn signs off on the 2025 season at 5-7, a losing record for like the third straight year. And quite frankly, we are, we're gonna talk about a game that was taken out of Auburn's hands by some questionable officiating. But what a fitting way to end the season. And we'll talk about it. I mean, it's robbery, blatant robbery is what I think about it. And what I to keep a lackluster Alabama team propped up for the CFP, is my opinion and is a lot of folks' opinions. I can only imagine. And Auburn played well enough to beat the number 10 team in the country. There's no question about that. Durkin looked like he had the defense back to flying around. He drew up some great calls, brought a lot of heat throughout the game. And although he's catching a lot of flack today for ball placement or inability to get started or whatever, inability to lead the team to the win for sure. Ashton Daniels actually played one of the grittiest games of his career as far as I'm concerned. I'm actually really proud of the kid. And today he committed to, or late last night, he committed to staying. He will be at Auburn next season. Whether or not he starts, who knows? But I thought that he actually played a decent game, and whether or not the ball placement, this is my opinion, whether or not the ball placement was perfect. Those receivers had their hands on the balls, and for the most part, those balls were all catchable. And you can't really blame Ashton for that. I was really disappointed in the way that some of our receivers started that game off. I'm pretty sure that we set a record for drops in an Iron Bowl, which, outside of the officiating, that is absolutely not a recipe to win a game, especially not a game against your rival. But that's the other thing about it. You cannot beat Alabama and SEC officiating at the same time, especially when you're playing like garbage. But that story about officiating and refs blowing the game or changing momentum or whatever, that story has gotten really old really fast this season. But it's fitting that in the last game of the season that it reared its ugly head yet again, and that is how Auburn's 2025 season ends. If you've been online at any point today, I really wish we could have gotten this podcast out a little bit earlier, since Alex Golesh has been announced and whatnot. But if you've been online at any point in time today, especially this morning, you've already seen the articles. You've seen the headlines. I think Saturday Down South might have done something on it. Local beat writers, of course, on 3, whatever. But like the consensus is clear, and not forget media members and everything else. Talk to a fan. The consensus is clear. The officiating in the fourth quarter was, I'm quoting this, the officiating was egregious. I mean, you have a tied game, 2020, and Alabama seems to be reeling. The crowd in Jordan-Hare is deafening. And on third down, they pin a phantom DPI on Sylvester Smith. Well, I thought he made, a great play on the ball against Brooks over his back, and looked clean to me. I mean, it looked clean when I watched it happen before the flag was thrown, and it looked clean the last 20 times I've seen the replay today. But the flag comes out and it extends their drive. It actually put them into positive territory on our side of the field, and eventually, obviously, sets them up to take shots at the end zone when we thought we were going to have them kicking it. But that same drive, towards the end of that one, it's Bama is behind the chains again. It's third and long, and we are convinced that we are going to make them kick a field goal here. With 5 minutes left in the game, and then this one led directly to them scoring points. Third and long, defense forces an incompletion, and Simpson was taking a shot at the end zone there, but they flag Xavier Atkins for roughing the passer when he was. We're not going to get into an argument about what it was and what it wasn't. Sure, he hit him low. Roughing the passer after he was blocked down while getting pressure, and he ends up getting Simpson around the lower legs. Like, when you are in a rivalry game like this, the officiating, you either go exactly by the book or you let them play, but you cannot have it both ways when it seems, it seems like you think it's appropriate in one time or another. And, like, don't think it's just coincidence that these calls were made in moments where Alabama was not in a good position and did not look likely to be extending these drives. And then two of them happened on a drive that ended up being the points they won by. That roughing the passing penalty didn't just move the chains. I mean, it handed them the game. Instead of Alabama kicking a field goal or punting because it was somewhere in the 55-yard range, they get a fresh set of downs, and then they're able to get in the end zone, and they're essentially handed a 27-20 lead. Which, by the way, is the score that the game ended on. So, not only was Auburn stopped the first time around on the DPI call coming at 5 minutes, Alabama then drives longer, and I believe Auburn gets the ball back with like a minute and 20 seconds left in the game or something like that. But absolutely ridiculous the way that game was officiated, especially at the end. And I'm not going to get into the targeting and ejection of Jaquez Robinson because it doesn't matter now. He's not going to be, suspended for another half or whatever. Season's over. But that call came down from Birmingham, stopped the game, and he ejected what it more or less is an important piece of the defense on a play that was, to me and a lot of, objective viewers, like objectively, it looked like shoulder to chest contact, and there was no lowering of the head whatsoever. It just happened to be on Ty Simpson after he had taken some licks throughout the game, and then, at an opportune time to give him a break and an extended drive and position them even better than they were, because I think, if I remember correctly, that was a 15-yard penalty and put them like on our 13-yard line or something like that. But absolutely abysmal by officiating this year, and I think that it was a disservice to the rivalry and a disservice to all the fans, Auburn fans, obviously, to let an Iron Bowl that a 5-6 Auburn team looked like they could beat the number 10 team in the country in Alabama in an Iron Bowl in Jordan-Hare at night. I mean, what a mess, and that is just, it's so frustrating. And I really hope that they figure out how to hash that out over the next year or so. But officiating is never going to get better, I don't think. So don't expect that. It's a bitter pill to swallow. It really is. Because if you look at the team stats, Auburn blew Alabama out of the water for the most part in terms of, yardage, time of possession, whatever, not completion rate, but a lot of those stuff, yards on the ground, plays ran, all that kind of stuff. It wasn't that Auburn wasn't good enough to win that game. But when a game is on the line and a whistle blows against you, there's nothing you can do about it to overcome that. I mean, time after time after time this season and last night. But, that Auburn could have beaten Alabama for sure. If they would have gotten off to a better start, they could have definitely not even been in a position where the refs needed to be involved like that. Same thing like Oklahoma. But you know what? I think that a decent Auburn team could have taken down the number 10 Alabama Crimson Tide. But instead, Alabama beats Auburn in Auburn for a third time in a row. And I believe that is the first time that has happened in the history of the series. which is unfortunate and embarrassing, and it's definitely fitting for this 5-ish year slump that we've been in, with abysmal showings. But you got to turn the page. You've got to turn the page because we have got some good news, and its name is Alex Golesh. But before we get to the Golish news, let's get a word from our sponsors. Brahma Marketing is your one-stop shop for everything from signs and apparel to high-impact vehicle wraps. As a certified 3M graphics company, they guarantee quality and durability. They've partnered with Greystar Real Estate, Prisma Health, HD Supply, and more. Stop blending in and start standing out. Visit brahmamarketing.com to get started on your next project. War Eagle from the Orlando Auburn Club. Are you an Auburn alum or fan living in the Orlando area? This is more than just a club. It's your official connection to the Auburn family right here in Central Florida. The club hosts watch parties and networking events for past, current, and future Tigers and their families. Find them on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and online at orlandooauburnclub.org. Well, welcome to the Plains, Alex Golesh. For those who don't know, Golish was hired this morning and announced as Auburn football's next head coach. He is coming to us from USF, where he pulled off one of the biggest turnarounds in college football in recent memory, at least. He took a team that had won 4 games in 3 years and turned them into a bowl-winning 9-win program in just 3 seasons. Golish runs what I call a hyper-speed Veer and Shoot offense. Wide open set style, spreads the field out. And it's the same system that he ran when he was the OC at Tennessee with Heupel, when they were hanging 50 points on people with Hendon Hooker. It spreads the field sideline to sideline, forces defenses to simplify, and they play at a high tempo. And to be completely honest with Auburn fans, it's shades of 2013 Gus Malzahn, but it's modernized. And also they've proven time and time again that it works, and he brought it from a very successful Tennessee to USF and had them also, improve the way that they played football, just being part of the system. But it's modernized. And, I like Golish because he's young. I said before, I wanted a young coach. I did not want someone that was like an old dog that didn't learn new tricks and whatnot. But he is young and he is hungry. And by all accounts, he is an elite recruiter. So he is just absolutely just a better version of Hugh Freeze, for sure. Hugh Freeze, Gus Malzahn, yada, yada, yada. Alex Golesh is a better version for that, and which is why he is a good fit at Auburn. But he turned USF into a top recruiting powerhouse in the AAC pretty much immediately. The guy is going to walk into living rooms and he's going to sell a vision of a lot of points, a lot of speed, and a lot of fun. For the kids that he's recruiting. And he's recruiting these kids as soon as this week. He's already talked to a bunch of the recruits in this class because signing day is coming up in literally a couple days. And certainly we may lose some folks, but he is known for his knack to develop athletes, and that is what they want. That is what the kids on the roster right now want. That is what the kids that are in the next couple classes coming up want. And they can just go look at what he's done with Byron Brown at USF. He turned an unknown recruit into a 3,000-yard passer. And that is exactly the kind of QB development that we have been starving for. And he is one of the best in the country. And he has one of the best in the country to work with next year in Deuce Knight. But the knock on everyone so far has been no one developed Bo, no one really developed Jarrett, no one developed Peyton Thorne, no one developed Sade Jackson. You know what I mean? Like those guys, Brian Harsin, Hugh Freeze, Gus Malzahn, like none of those guys, Hugh Freeze especially, quarterback whisperer. I'm pretty sure Brian Harsin was referred to as a quarterback whisperer too, but none of those guys just ever seem to be able to do it at Auburn. We've got an opportunity here with Alex Golesh to see if we can, make that a reality. And, I'm going to give credit to Kenny Dillingham, who said Alex Golesh is a good fit at Auburn. And guess what Kenny Dillingham knows about coaching QBs. But about, speaking of recruiting, he's got Deuce Knight for next year, and he can certainly develop him, but he's not just going to have to recruit the young guys that will hopefully be signing with Auburn in early December. He's going to have to recruit the current roster, including Deuce Knight. And that may be the most important part of his day in the facility for the next couple weeks. Because, and mind you, because we hired a permanent coach, Auburn's players that are on the roster right now have the opportunity to enter the portal, due to the coaching change. That's not the set portal in January. And thankfully we've made this decision in advance, because it's actually not all that bad, and it's not unexpected, because it happens. It is known to happen with staff turnover and the announcement of a new permanent coach. And he has a real chance to see what he is working with, compared to a scenario where the admin had waited until, the season wrapped, or like they kept someone around to try to sign a recruiting class or whatever, like Alabama did, I believe, when Saban ended up leaving. And then they let the coaching decision follow. Like we would have been sitting ducks, because those kids probably would have bounced, because that's just not, fair to them, really. But, Golish now can walk into the locker room, which, by the way, he did today with a lot of the recruits that were here for the Iron Bowl. He talked to them today, and he can go in there and he can re-recruit this roster and keep this team together even in the face of the new hire window and the January portal window. He is going to have to maintain the momentum after signing day and continue to keep re-recruiting all of these guys. And I know I covered it in a podcast a couple weeks ago, I think when Hugh got fired, but a reminder for you that the players have 5 days to meet with Golish starting today, now that he was named as the permanent head coach. And then after that 5 days, a 15-day portal window opens for current players. So all the guys that are on the roster right now have the ability to enter a portal that is not the one that is at the end of January. And speaking of current players, look at this. Look, Golish's offense it has been proven to be highly productive and electric and win games and produce quarterbacks with gaudy numbers and receivers that win awards. So speaking of re-recruiting current players, Cam, Malcolm, Eric, Perry, they come to mind. Those are must keeps. And Golish's offense is a wide receiver's dream. So he needs to go sit them down and show them tape of Jalen Hyatt at Tennessee winning the Biletnikoff. Because if Cam Coleman stays, he puts up 1,200 yards next year. No question. That is guaranteed. But who throws him the ball? That is a big question. And I think it's Deuce. But does Golish bring Byron Brown with him from USF? I mean, Brown has obviously shown that he fits the system perfectly. And if he does come, what happens to Deuce? And what happens to Ashen? And what happens to even Peyton Valzone? I mean, I think everyone thinks this. I think Deuce is an elite athlete. And I think he wins the quarterback competition going into next fall. Because Deuce is just that much better, but like it doesn't hurt to have all these athletes in the QB room. Bring Byram. But like Golish's system thrives on mobile quarterbacks, so just stack them up. I think Golish goes in and he makes a very hard pitch to keep Deuce. But don't be shocked if we see a battle between a couple guys in that room one of which is probably the quarterback that is running the system right now at USF. And we'll have more on all that, obviously, as we get as those things develop, and those are months away. But we'll have more about Golish in general as things unfold. He'll have a presser tomorrow. We'll probably hear more about. We'll probably get some more insight into what he's saying to these kids, how these kids are feeling, and what plans are as they rapidly unfold before signing day. As the portal opens, getting these kids up, seeing what happens with USF's bowl game and things like that. If they want anyone to come, we will find that out, and we will let you know. But the meantime, 5-7 sucks. It hurts. Losing to Bama like that sucks and hurts. But for the first time in a long time, I want you to remember that it seems like we have a clear direction and may just be able to put the slump that we have been in our rear view. And we now have a coach, for all intents and purposes, who knows how to build. He knows how to recruit as well as anyone. And he brings a better identity than anyone that we have had potentially this millennia. So remember that even while you lick your wounds after the Iron Bowl and another embarrassing season for Auburn fans. But you know what? Never be too hard on them, because those kids go to practice every day. They show up for the games, and they are putting their body on the line. So, I guess they're like our warriors or whatever. So, don't disrespect them on social media. And as we get into the portal windows, if a kid decides that he doesn't want to be at Auburn, then, wish him luck. But there's no reason to be arguing with a bunch of 18-year-olds online. And although the season really was pretty shitty, we'll just keep chugging along and hope that this administration can figure out what to do to right the ship. And hopefully, this time next year, we're looking at, polls coming out on Wednesdays or whatever, and we're in the discussion for a CFP, and we've got a 1,200-yard receiver in Cam Coleman, and things are clicking. But we will be back. We will be back later this week to cover more Golish news and check out what's going on around the end of some of the other seasons on the Plains and the Tigers on the Prowl segment for Monday. So everyone just keep your heads up, and we'll let you know about all that. We will keep you updated. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe the video. Join us over on X to be a part of the conversation. But please, 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 keep your heads up. The Tigers are on a roll. So Tigers on a roll, we'll roll along right with them. But with that, thank you guys for watching. War Eagle, and see ya.